Good day. I want to comment on this article about truck driver pay. This is from February 17th, so last Friday. I'm recording this on Monday, the 20th. And really, it's not a surprise at all. So, compensation now became the number one concern above equipment for the first time in like 5 years, which I don't think is surprising. I don't know of a carrier who hasn't been working on equipment, getting new equipment, trying to lower their out of service percentage. Of course, that I think that's going to be improved upon, and therefore maybe that's why compensation overtook the number one spot. But just like they say in the article, like Leah Shaver from NTI, who I'm friends with, so I agree with a lot of things that she says, you know, compensation has always been near the top. Pay is always up there. Now, pay might be overtaking because of what they also say in here, which I mean, I think everybody kind of knows from a common sense standpoint, is when freight slows down, our number of miles slow down. Number of miles relate to how much a driver is getting paid. If they can't put in the 3,000 miles a week anymore, and they're only getting 2,500, of course their pay goes down. So it's not necessarily about the rate per mile. It's, are you able to get their miles? Now I'm seeing that from our side. We have carriers that have slowed down recruiting a little bit because they're worried that they're not going to be able to give the miles to their existing drivers. And rightfully so. If you do that, you're going to see turnover issues. So all of this, yes, pay complaints are number one, but I think that's in regards to what's happening because carriers have been increasing their pay, and this is pointed out into the article that how much pay has gone up over time. Um, Everybody's going up in pay, and so one of the things that even carriers are doing, and they talk about in here, that 40% of the fleets that Leah is working with are now offering guaranteed pay versus a rate per mile specifically. Now, my favorite programs that I've seen are the guaranteed pays, but then once a driver gets above a certain mileage, so once they get above 2,500 miles or once they get above 2,800 miles, that there is a per mile kicker in there. So I've seen carriers do, hey, this is your guaranteed pay. Once you're above 2,500 miles, we're going to pay you 65 cents a mile for everything above that. It's almost like a built-in bonus program. And I think that that keeps your productive drivers being very productive while being able to get a floor so you can take away that concern that they have about losing too much. Now, pay and equipment, the reason why these show up is because these are the easy, tangible things for drivers to complain about. But this will never go away. I don't care how much you do with pay or equipment, they're always going to be the top concerns. And the reason for that and how it's not going to affect turnover is because drivers don't feel the permission to, or have the right to, or even know the language to talk about just feeling like they hate your company, right? You never have a driver come in and just say, well, I feel this way. Even when that's the case, they'll still complain, well, I'm going somewhere else because I can get more money somewhere else. So company culture and your operations and how they work, right, is exactly the what should be, I think, the number one issues. But drivers don't have that language to even say that. Now, if your turnover is above 40%, I guarantee you that it's something with your operations and your company culture. You're probably doing all the right things from a pay standpoint, from an equipment standpoint, and you're still confused on why is your turnover higher. Now, the reason I give that 40% is because we work with a lot of carriers that are below 40% turnover. A lot of them are actually in like the high 20 percentile, low 30 percentile turnover. And they've done things that make their culture different than other places. Now, are they going to be able to say, like, oh, I did this, this, and this? I kind of find that a lot of these companies almost fall into it by accident just because who's in their leadership. I don't see a lot of intentionality in that. Now, if you want intentionality, I can tell you exactly what we've seen work in the past. And I'm willing to say that to you. And if you wanted to book a call to ask what that is, I don't care if you go do that on your own. I can give you the tools to the tool shop and the blueprint. What I know is that most leaders need to be honest about how much time their team can put into extra projects, which is typically none. Um, and and their ability to execute on a project is usually pretty low. There's not the accountability there. So I'm willing to give the blueprint. You can schedule a call with me. The other couple things that I think that should be really looked at that I think are new right now is I've come across a new vendor that does daily bonuses. So they're aggregating all the data from your safety, your cameras, the miles that drivers getting, your payroll, all these things. They're connecting into the APIs, and they're finally getting to what I've heard a lot of people talk about for a long time is how do you gamify the driver experience? So what they're doing is they're showing every single day what the driver's score is, and then they give out a daily bonus for that. So, a carrier might say, I have $500 a month for bonuses. And so what's going to happen is that's going to get broken out into potentially daily bonuses for a driver. There is scientific reasoning behind giving a daily bonus. We know how many people have changed their driver referral bonuses or their sign-on bonuses to try to get paid out in a shorter amount of time because we instinctively know that when you have a shorter period of time between the behavior you want and the incentive that you want, that it's better. So what can be better than daily? And it gets a driver to check in every single day. And it also gives red flags of this driver's on a downward trend. This is a turnover issue. Call that driver, talk to them. So I've seen companies starting to do information with or doing actual tactics and strategy around that information that I think are beneficial. And if you want an introduction to them, I'll make the introduction to them. Don't worry, I'm not getting like some referral bonus for it. And then the other piece is I still think that there is a need for using the behavioral assessment tools. So behavioral assessment tools are meant to look at what's the quality of the driver. Now, I don't think this should necessarily always dictate whether you hire or don't hire someone, but I think what it does dictate is is the turnover that you're experiencing your problem as a company, or is it because of the driver? And the driver's always going to be a turnover problem. And so in those behavioral assessments, they're going to give you some type of score. And if you see a driver come on board and they're a lower score, and you expect them to turn over and you see that they do turnover, you can say, well, that was the driver that is the turnover problem. But if you see a driver that's getting a good score or a higher score on the behavioral assessment and then they leave, you can pretty much know that that's a company problem that you need to fix. You need to figure that out. So this article says a lot of great information. Hey, pay has gone up. Pay is no longer the number one issue, or is the number one issue. It wasn't before. Equipment was. Equipment has moved down. But I think the piece that it's missing is that if you're experiencing more than 40% turnover, you got a different problem. It, I know drivers are going to say pay and they're going to say equipment, but it's going to come to your operations and your company culture. And if you need any help with that, contact me. I'm willing to share the information.